Okay, so I want to talk about episode 7 and specifically one moment because when I first watched that scene with the globe, I didn't fully register what I was seeing, it kind of slipped past me. But after sitting with it, replaying it, and really thinking through all the details, I'm convinced we were just handed the answer to one of the biggest mysteries in the entire show. What actually happened between Jax and his friends? Before they abstracted. People have been theorizing about Jax's backstory since episode 1. Why he's so broken. Why he's so cruel. What really went down between him, Kaufmo, and Ribbit. And up until now, the easy explanation was just he lost his friends and it messed him up. But episode 7 gives us something way more specific, something darker. Because what it looks like now is that Jax's friends weren't just victims of bad luck, they were actively trying to escape the circus. And Jax refused to help them. That refusal didn't just end their friendship. It may have been the thing that sealed their fate. Let's start with the most obvious reveal. We finally see Jax's room. And it's not just a bedroom, it's a shrine. Photos of him with Kaufmo and Ribbit, all smiling, all looking genuinely close. Not fake happy, not surface level friends. These are people who trusted each other. Then there's that small table with 3 chairs, which feels intentional. Like they had their own private place, their own corner of the circus where it was just them. And then there's the orb, the snowy cabin, the muffled voices arguing inside it. And thanks to the voice actor credits, we know one of those voices belongs to Ribbit. You can barely make out what she's saying, but if you listen closely, it sounds like, "You were my best friend." Past tense, and that's important. Because that suggests we're not just watching a random memory, we're watching the moment their friendship broke. Now here's where everything clicks. Think back to episode 1, to Kaufmo's room, the walls covered in drawings, obsessive writings about finding the exit. That specific image of Kane catching him mid-escape, that wasn't metaphorical. That suggests Kaufmo actually tried to leave and Kane stopped him. So if Kaufmo was that deep into finding a way out, and if Jax, Kaufmo, and Ribbit were inseparable, there's no way he didn't tell them about it, and there's no way Ribbit didn't help him. That's what close friends do. They don't just listen, they join in. So that snowy cabin adventure, that wasn't just a random side quest. That feels like the moment they found something real, a crack in the system, a weakness, an actual possible exit. And when they realized that, they went straight to Jax, expecting him to be excited, expecting him to finally be ready to leave with them, but Jax didn't want to go. And this is where the theory from earlier episodes comes back. If Jax did something terrible in the real world, if he hurt someone, or killed someone, or came from an abusive situation, then escaping the circus doesn't mean freedom. It means consequences. It means facing a reality that might be worse than this fake one. So when Kaufmo and Ribbit told him about their plan, Jax shut it down. He refused to help. And from Ribbit's point of view, that would feel like betrayal. Like choosing Kane over your own friends, like giving up when there was finally hope. That's why she says, "You were my best friend." Not because she stopped caring, but because she couldn't understand why he gave up on them. But Kaufmo and Ribbit didn't stop just because Jax said no. They kept searching, kept pushing, kept trying to escape without him. And remember what Jax says about people right before they abstract. That they become unbearable to be around at first. It sounds like he's just talking about mental collapse. But what if he's actually talking about obsession? What if he's describing what it was like watching his 2 best friends grow more desperate by the day? If every conversation was about the exit, if every interaction reminded him of what he refused to do, then yeah, from his perspective, they probably did become unbearable. Not because they were broken, but because they were mirrors, constantly reflecting his own fear back at him. And that obsession is what got them caught. We already know Kane stops escape attempts. We've seen that characters who ask too many questions, who push too hard against the rules, are the ones who abstract. So if Kaufmo and Ribbit were actively trying to leave, then to Kane, they weren't just residents anymore, they were threats. And abstraction might be what happens when Kane decides someone can't be controlled in their current form. So Jax had to sit there and watch his 2 closest friends deteriorate, knowing it was happening because they chased something he was too afraid to touch. And suddenly, Jax's behavior makes sense. He skips Kaufmo's funeral. When Pomni calls him out on it later, he says he doesn't go to anyone's funerals at first. It sounds like typical Jax cruelty. But how could he stand there and mourn when he knows he failed them? And it's not just Kaufmo he didn't go to Ribbit's either, or Queenie's, or anyone's, because showing up means admitting you cared. And caring is what got people hurt. So instead, he becomes cruel. Cruelty is easier than guilt. Being the villain is easier than being the coward who stayed behind. While his friends died trying to escape, if nothing matters, if everyone's just a cartoon, then he doesn't have to feel the weight of losing the only people who ever mattered to him. But the photos in his room ruin that lie. That private shrine no one else sees proves he still cares. If he didn't, he wouldn't keep reminders around, he wouldn't torture himself with memories. He wouldn't avoid funerals because they hurt too much, he just wouldn't care at all. And then there's that moment when he stares at the photo and reality starts breaking. Ribbit's hand reaching out to him. That's exactly what abstraction looks like from the inside. Which means Jax was starting to lose himself too. That guilt finally caught up. So when Pomni knocks on his door and the group decides to try escaping, again, Jax goes with them, and that matters. This is the same person who once refused to help an escape attempt. And now he's participating in one, maybe because he realized he's abstracting anyway. Or maybe because seeing Ribbit again reminded him of what his fear cost him the first time. But then they reach the buttons. Red or blue, and Jax pushes red. Kane immediately says they chose wisely, but we don't actually know if that's true. We don't know if blue was really a trap, or if Kane was covering up the fact that they almost got out. What we do know is that Jax chose to keep everyone inside when he had the option not to. And that choice makes perfect sense if you remember that Ribbit abstracted before Kaufmo. They weren't together when it happened. Something went wrong. Someone went first. Maybe Ribbit triggered the abstraction trying to escape. Maybe Kaufmo followed later. Either way, Jax watched his friends die chasing freedom. So now, when given the same choice again, he stops it. Not because he loves the circus, but because he knows what happens when people try to leave, and he's not willing to watch it happen. Again, not to Pomni, not to anyone. So yeah, I think the snowy cabin was the moment Kaufmo and Ribbit finally found a real way out, and told Jax about it, and Jax refused. That refusal ended their friendship. They tried to escape without him, Kane.